Have you ever wondered, quietly, maybe even uncomfortably, whether masturbation after 50 is helping you or slowly draining your energy, hormones, and confidence? Most men are told it's completely harmless, yet many still feel more tired, less motivated, and not quite like themselves. The real issue isn't guilt or morality, it's biology, hormones, and how aging changes the rules. I'll explain what's really happening and what most doctors never say. I'm Dr. Jennifer Lincoln with decades of experience studying men's hormonal health. Tell me where you're watching from and gently tap like and subscribe so you don't miss what could change everything. When you cross 50, your body doesn't suddenly fall apart, but it does start playing by quieter, stricter rules. Testosterone no longer rebounds overnight, dopamine isn't as quick to reset, and your nervous system needs more time to recover. Many men tell me, "Doctor, I didn't change anything, but I feel different." And that's the key. You didn't change, but your biology did. What once felt neutral at 30 can feel draining at 55, not because it's wrong, but because your internal chemistry is more sensitive now. Testosterone, the hormone tied to drive, confidence, muscle, and sexual energy, naturally declines about 1% per year after your mid-30s. That doesn't sound dramatic, but compounded over decades, it matters. Dopamine, the motivation and reward chemical, also becomes less responsive. This means repeated stimulation gives you less payoff and more fatigue. The brain needs longer pauses to reset. When those pauses don't happen, men over 50 often notice low energy, poorer sleep, and a subtle loss of enthusiasm they can't quite explain. Emotionally, this can be confusing. You may start wondering if something is wrong with you. You might feel frustrated that your body doesn't bounce back like it used to. I want you to hear this clearly. This is not weakness, and it's not failure. It's simply aging biology asking for a different rhythm. Ignoring that rhythm is what creates problems, not the habit itself. Here's the practical shift I want you to try. Begin paying attention to recovery, not just frequency. Notice how you feel the next day, your energy, focus, mood, and sleep quality. Men over 50 who protect recovery tend to feel stronger, calmer, and more in control. Simple habits like deeper sleep, strength training, morning sunlight, and spacing out stimulation can dramatically support testosterone and nervous system balance. This isn't about restriction or guilt, it's about awareness. When you align your habits with your changing biology, energy often returns naturally. And once you understand this shift, the next question becomes unavoidable. How exactly does masturbation interact with testosterone and energy after 50? That's where the real myth begins to fall apart. Let's talk about one of the biggest myths I hear from men over 50, that masturbation always lowers testosterone. Some believe it wrecks their hormones, drains their energy, and weakens their manhood. Others say it has no effect at all. So which is it? The truth, as always, lies in biology, and it's not as black and white as people think. For men over 50, the relationship between ejaculation, testosterone, and energy depends less on the act itself and more on your recovery, hormone balance, and nervous system state. Here's what the science says. Masturbation doesn't cause a long-term drop in testosterone levels. In fact, one study showed that short-term abstinence, around 3 to 7 days, can slightly increase testosterone, but those changes often normalize after release. So no, masturbation isn't going to crash your hormones in one go, but there's a deeper layer here, especially for aging men. The more important factor isn't testosterone production, it's dopamine depletion and nervous system fatigue. Every time you masturbate, your brain releases a cocktail of feel-good chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. But over time, especially with frequent stimulation, your receptors become less sensitive. This is where energy loss can sneak in. You may not be producing less testosterone, but your brain becomes less responsive to reward. You feel less motivated, more tired, and even a bit foggy. That's not because you're doing something wrong, but because your body's reset mechanism is slower after 50. Emotionally, this can feel discouraging. You might feel stuck, wanting to maintain a habit that once relaxed you, but noticing it now leaves you more drained than refreshed. You might question your masculinity or feel embarrassed to even bring it up. Please don't. There is no shame in noticing these shifts. It's not about morality, it's about management. So here's a simple self-check you can do this week. After your next release, give yourself 24 hours. Track your energy, focus, and mood. Ask, did I wake up feeling clear? Did I feel sharp in conversation? Was my workout harder than usual? If you notice a consistent pattern of low drive or poor sleep, your body may be telling you it needs more time to restore balance between dopamine and testosterone. Remember, this isn't a lecture, it's an invitation to listen to your body. Men over 50 often thrive when they move from automatic habits to intentional choices. And once you understand your own rhythm, it becomes easier to decode the other symptoms your body may be sending. Because the truth is, masturbation might not be the issue, but it could be a signal of something deeper going on. Let's talk about that next. Many men over 50 chalk up their low motivation, restless nights, and weakened erections to just getting older. But what if those symptoms weren't simply part of aging? What if they were your body's quiet way of telling you something's out of balance, something that can be addressed, not just endured? This is where masturbation enters the picture, not as the root problem, but as a clue. Here's what I often see in my patients. They feel tired, unmotivated, disconnected, and they assume their age is to blame. They turn to masturbation for stress relief or sleep, which can seem harmless. But over time, it becomes a coping mechanism, not a choice. The body, meanwhile, sends signals: lighter sleep, slower recovery, less drive in both work and relationships, and yes, weaker erections. These signs aren't punishments, they're messages. Your nervous system, hormone levels, and brain chemistry are trying to get your attention. Biologically, what's happening is subtle but powerful. Cortisol, your main stress hormone, tends to increase with age, especially if sleep is poor or stress is chronic. High cortisol suppresses testosterone. So even if masturbation isn't directly depleting your testosterone, the habit may be part of a larger pattern that is, especially if it's disrupting your sleep or keeping your nervous system overstimulated. Combine that with reduced dopamine sensitivity, and the cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Low mood leads to stimulation seeking, which leads to more fatigue and lower drive. Emotionally, this can feel frustrating and even isolating. You're doing the best you can with the tools you have. Maybe no one ever told you that brain fog, lost motivation, and emotional flatness are not just normal. They're your body waving a flag. It's not asking you to stop everything, it's asking you to listen. So what can you do? Start by observing patterns. Keep a 3-day log of your sleep, energy, and mood. Include whether you masturbated that day or night. Most men begin to see correlations they hadn't noticed before. Maybe poor sleep follows late night stimulation. Maybe your clearest mornings follow nights of rest and no arousal. Once you see the patterns, you gain power. You're no longer reacting, you're responding. This isn't about blame, it's about tuning in. Your body is incredibly intelligent, and it rarely whispers without reason. When you start seeing masturbation not as a sin or secret, but as a signal, your whole perspective shifts. And once that shift happens, the next question naturally becomes, how often is too often, and when does frequency start to interfere with recovery and energy? That's what we'll uncover next. For most men over 50, the question isn't whether to stop masturbating, it's how often is actually supporting your energy, and when does it start taking more than it gives. The truth is, frequency matters, but not in the way most people think. It's not about morality or self-discipline. It's about biology, recovery, and how your nervous system regulates energy, sleep, and focus as you age. In your younger years, you could get away with frequent ejaculation, sometimes daily, and still bounce back quickly. Testosterone was higher, dopamine pathways were more resilient, and your nervous system had a quicker recovery time. But after 50, these systems become more sensitive. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for rest and recovery, takes longer to reset after stimulation. And if you're constantly activating your sympathetic system with frequent arousal, your body never fully shifts into repair mode. That's when fatigue sets in and testosterone begins to dip. Not because of the act itself, but because the system is overstimulated and under-recovered. Many of my patients come in saying, I just don't feel like myself anymore, or I can't focus the way I used to. They rarely connect that feeling to their sexual habits, but when we track their routines, patterns emerge. The men who engage in daily or near-daily masturbation often report lower morning energy, poorer sleep, and a blunted sense of motivation. It's not that they're doing something wrong, it's that their nervous system is begging for more breathing room. Here's a practical adjustment I suggest you try. Take a 3-day reset break. This isn't about abstinence for the sake of control. It's a diagnostic tool. For 72 hours, avoid all forms of sexual stimulation and watch what happens. Many men report deeper sleep, more mental clarity, and a noticeable uptick in natural energy. That's your body showing you what it can do when it's not constantly asked to perform or recover. After your reset, reintroduce the habit mindfully. Notice how you feel when you space out the frequency, every 3 to 4 days instead of daily, for example. Do you feel clearer, more balanced? Often just that one shift, allowing your nervous system time to fully reset, can restore the energy and drive you thought was lost to age. This isn't about restriction, it's about rhythm. Your body at 55 or 60 needs a different pace than it did at 30. And once you understand your unique rhythm, the next step is learning how to support it physically, hormonally, and emotionally so you feel more like yourself again. In the next chapter, I'll show you how to build a lifestyle that protects your energy, strengthens your hormones, and reconnects you with the deeper confidence every man deserves. By now, you've likely realized that this isn't really about masturbation. It's about understanding your body's signals and supporting the systems that keep you energized, confident, and clear-headed as a man over 50. And the good news is, your body is not broken. It's just asking for a wiser kind of support. When you give it that, your hormones stabilize, your sleep deepens, your mind sharpens, and your masculine drive returns, not in a forced way, but naturally. Let's start with testosterone. Supporting your levels doesn't mean taking extreme supplements or going on restrictive protocols. The first and most powerful tool is sleep. Men who sleep 7 to 8 solid hours nightly have significantly higher testosterone than those who don't. If your current habit, like late night arousal or screen time, is interfering with sleep quality, you're chipping away at your hormone foundation. Try setting a simple rule. No screens or stimulation an hour before bed. That single boundary can lead to better sleep and higher morning testosterone. Next, strengthen your dopamine system. As we age, dopamine, the chemical tied to drive and reward, becomes more sensitive. The more often it's triggered, the less responsive it becomes. To reset your dopamine pathways, reduce easy hits like constant scrolling, porn, or frequent stimulation. Replace them with active dopamine builders, like walking outside in sunlight, lifting weights, solving a challenge, or doing something that gives you purpose. These activities refill your tank rather than draining it. Emotionally, confidence is built through consistency, not intensity. Most men over 50 don't need to overhaul their lives. They need to make small, daily commitments and stick with them. If masturbation has become a default escape from stress or boredom, consider what it's crowding out. What would happen if you redirected that time or energy towards something nourishing, even for just 10 minutes? A hobby, a walk, a stretch, a conversation. These moments reconnect you with your identity outside of sexual release, and that's where real masculine confidence grows. Here's how to reframe everything we've discussed. Masturbation isn't wrong, but when done without awareness, it can become a subtle leak in your energy system. When approached mindfully, giving your body rest, rhythm, and recovery, it becomes just one part of a balanced, powerful life. There is no shame here, only choice. You've learned how your biology changes after 50, how habits affect hormones, and how to listen to the signals your body sends. Now it's time to integrate that knowledge. Because when a man understands his biology, honors it, and lives in sync with it, his energy, confidence, and drive don't fade with age. They deepen, and that's the real power waiting for you. If you've made it this far, I want to remind you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your body isn't broken, it's simply shifting, asking for wiser rhythms and deeper rest. And when you begin to listen, not with fear, but with awareness, you gain the power to work with your biology, not against it. Small changes like better sleep, spaced out stimulation, and intentional recovery can create real, lasting shifts in testosterone, mood, and confidence. I've seen it countless times. Share your age and your biggest insight in the comments. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. You're not alone, and by sharing, you help normalize a conversation most men keep silent. Remember, aging isn't a decline, it's a refinement. You're not losing your power, you're learning how to direct it, and your clearest, most grounded years may still be right in front of you.